Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at Muslim identity and how that shapes the idea of community.
Okay.
What it really means to belong.
Right.
We've got a stack of sources here.
Yeah.
Excerpts from Quranic commentary, reflections on building like authentic communities, and even some historical examples
I love that.
that promise to offer a fascinating perspective.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a really interesting one.
Yeah.
You know, the materials immediately kind of dive into this question that I think a lot of us grapple with.
Okay.
Which is, does simply being part of a group, even one as significant as a religious community,
Right.
automatically grant you special status?
Okay.
Or guarantee a positive outcome?
Right.
And the answer, as we discover, is surprisingly nuanced.
It's that moment where you're like, oh, just because I call myself part of this group doesn't mean like I've checked a box.
Exactly.
So what does the source say about that?
So the Quran really emphasizes that it's your personal beliefs and actions, your commitment to living out your faith through good deeds that truly matter.
Okay.
And there's this really interesting concept of akhlaq,
Okay.
which emphasizes good character and ethical conduct.
Okay.
And it suggests that belonging isn't passive.
Right.
It's an active pursuit of living in accordance with your faith.
So it's less about affiliation and more about action.
Exactly.
Which makes me think about this idea of ummah,
Right.
which refers to the global Muslim community.
A global community, exactly.
Right. And it's so fascinating how this source connects that concept not just to shared faith, but also to shared responsibility towards one another.
Absolutely. So it's not just about saying that you're a part of the ummah, but it's about what you're actively doing to contribute to the well-being of the community and upholding its values through your actions.
Yeah. And it reminds me, this is a great quote.
Yeah.
Highlighted in the source from a time of immense conflict.
Right.
God is sufficient for us.
Mm.
He is the best guardian.
Powerful.
And it wasn't just a saying.
Right.
It fueled their actions.
Oh.
And ultimately helped them persevere.
Imagine facing incredible odds.
Right.
Yet drawing strength from this belief that your faith,
Right.
your commitment to a greater good,
Yeah.
is your ultimate protector.
Wow.
You know, this quote speaks volumes about the power of shared faith and reliance on a higher purpose.
Yeah.
Especially during challenging times.
For sure.
And it makes you wonder, you know, if it's not about these empty labels,
Right.
what does the Quran identify as the building blocks
Okay.
of a strong and positive community?
Yeah.
What creates that sense of true belonging?
So how does the Quran define those building blocks?
Right. What are they?
What actually constitutes a strong, positive community?
Well, the source points to three key pillars outlined in the Quran.
Okay.
True belief, shared goals, and avoiding empty pride. It's like building a house.
Okay.
You need that strong foundation of shared faith,
Yeah.
the framework of common goals, and you have to be really mindful
Yeah.
of avoiding the cracks of arrogance and superiority.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So it's not enough to just believe in the same things. You need that shared purpose,
Absolutely.
a common goal that everyone is working toward.
Precisely. And this idea of avoiding empty pride
All right.
is crucial here.
Okay.
It really emphasizes that true belonging isn't about your lineage, your ethnicity, or any superficial marker.
Right.
It's about recognizing our shared humanity and purpose.
Right.
And the source specifically mentions
Okay.
how the Quran warns against equating community identity with superiority based on those factors.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that those things can actually be sources of division rather than unity.
Absolute.
Which makes me think about the story of Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt.
That's a perfect example.
Right?
Yeah. And this story is highlighted in the source, too.
Okay.
It beautifully illustrates how shared identity and purpose, their faith and their journey to this promised land, help them to face enormous challenges as a collective.
They faced so many obstacles.
They did.
Yet it was their shared faith and their common goal that bound them together.
Exactly. It wasn't about their tribal affiliations or their individual backgrounds.
Right.
It was about this collective commitment to something larger than themselves.
Right. And that's incredibly powerful.
It is.
It really is. And it makes you think, like, what if we, in our diverse communities, focused on those shared values and aspirations as our primary unifiers?
Imagine a world where your worth is judged not by your background, but by your commitment.
Your actions.
To good deeds, to building a better future. For everyone.
Yeah, that's a really powerful image.
It is. And it's not some utopian fantasy.
Right.
The source suggests that this vision is very much in line with what the Quran teaches about building a just and equitable society.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that inherent dignity in every individual, regardless of their background, and really focusing on our shared humanity.
Yeah.
But, even with the best of intentions,
Right.
the sources also acknowledge that building a strong and unified community can be fraught with challenges.
For sure.
So what are some of those challenges? Yeah. What can actually cause those good intentions to go astray?
Well, the source is very clear.
Okay.
That even when you have those shared values, those shared goals, there are still potential pitfalls.
Okay. Are there a lot?
It outlines 4 major ones to watch out for.
4. Okay.
It highlights just how delicate this balance can be.
Wow.
The first one is this temptation of false superiority.
Right.
It's easy to kind of fall into that trap of thinking your group is inherently better than others.
Okay.
Simply because of your shared beliefs or your identity.
Yeah, we see that all the time throughout history.
All the time.
Where groups are claiming this inherent superiority based on just who they are, not what they actually stand for.
Exactly. And the source uses a really powerful example to illustrate this point.
Okay.
It brings up the story of the children of Israel who were specifically warned against this.
Oh, wow.
So
right.
They were still cautioned against letting that identity become a source of arrogance or division.
Okay. Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah. And I think the source really reminds us here that God's favor isn't about entitlement. It's about responsibility.
Okay.
It's about upholding those values of justice, compassion, humility, regardless of your chosen status.
He's a good reminder for everybody.
Yeah.
So that's one pitfall, false superiority.
Right.
What are the other 3?
So the second danger that the source highlights is division within the community itself.
Okay.
So when people start to prioritize their differences over those shared values, you start to see these factions emerge.
Yeah.
And it really undermines the strength of the whole.
It's that saying, united we stand, divided we fall.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this ties directly into the third pitfall.
Okay.
Which is neglecting personal responsibility.
Okay.
So if people start to think that belonging to a certain group absolves them of individual accountability, it can lead to this sense of complacency.
Yeah.
And really a decline in moral standards.
Right. It's like you can hide behind the group instead of actually taking ownership of your actions and what impact they have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all of that leads to that fourth danger, which is hypocrisy.
Right.
The source really emphasizes that true community requires genuine commitment.
Okay.
And when you have people who are outwardly conforming, but they're inwardly rejecting those values, it creates this breeding ground for distrust and conflict.
Right. It becomes all about appearances rather than the substance of what you actually believe.
Exactly. And that eats away at the very foundation of what a community should be.
Right.
A place of trust, mutual support, shared purpose.
So with all of these potential pitfalls, how do we navigate this, especially in a world today where communities face real discrimination, hostility from others?
Absolutely.
Is it ever okay to isolate yourself to protect yourself?
That's a question.
Yeah.
A lot of people grapple with.
Right.
And the source actually offers some insights here.
Okay.
It emphasizes that the Quran strongly encourages unity and engagement, even in the face of adversity.
So isolation is not the answer?
Rarely. Rarely the answer.
So how should communities then respond when they do face that discrimination and that prejudice?
Well, the source highlights 6 key responses that are emphasized in the Quran. It encourages patience and faith to endure hardship. Upholding justice. Avoiding hostility. Emphasizes the importance of community support. And ultimately trusting in a power beyond ourselves.
So it's like this multifaceted approach.
It is.
Of drawing on that inner strength, but also still building those bridges.
Exactly. And ultimately, the source reminds us that building a better future requires action.
Right.
It's not just about enduring hardship. It's about working towards that more just and compassionate world.
Yeah, we've covered so much today.
We have.
From the true meaning of belonging.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
To the challenges.
It has.
And the triumphs of building a strong and unified community.
Absolutely a deep dive indeed.
It has been a deep dive.
We've explored these Quranic teachings on community, But the real journey, I think,
Right.
begins now with reflection and action.
So listeners, as you go about your week, think about this.
Yeah.
How can you embody these values of compassion,
absolutely,
justice in your own communities?
Love it.
What would it look like for you to prioritize peace and reconciliation even when it's difficult?
Great question to ponder.
Food for thought, everyone.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.